Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. My name is Elizabeth Draper, and I'm Deputy Chair of the English Association, and I'm hosting and chairing this session, which I'm very pleased to be doing today. The EA is a learned society and subject association which was founded in 1906 to promote, support, and celebrate the discipline of English studies. We cover all stages of education from primary and early years through to secondary and further education, to higher education and beyond. We also cover all parts of the discipline across language, linguistics, literature, and creative writing. Events like this one are made possible by the fantastic contribution of our volunteer speakers. So thank you to tonight's speakers, Bianca Fanciullacci and Angie, Lenton. Our members make it possible to keep these events free and open to all by paying their membership fees. If you would like to contribute to the national conversation about English and help support our discipline, please consider joining us. It costs around £1 per week to support our events and campaigning work for a whole year, and you'll get access to a range of member benefits, including online access to all our journals. Now it's my pleasure to begin today's session, Thinking Forwards, Collaboration, Working Together in Further Education, which is part of our Thinking Forwards series this year, where our focus is on collaboration in our subject. So I'm going to hand over first to Bianca to introduce herself, then Angie will introduce herself, and then I'm going to guide them with some questions. Okay, so thank you. Over to Bianca.
Hi everyone, I'm Bianca Fanciullacci. I've been working in further education for about 20 years now. Started off as an ESOL teacher, and since the condition of funding I've been working in the English cross-college section, and I've been teaching functional skills and English GCSE and all its sort of permutations until now, and progressed sort of through different roles, and now head of school for English and Maths in Uxbridge College, which is part of the HRUC group. And just for a tiny bit of context, we've probably got about 2,000 learners taking GCSE English in the year. Just thought I'd let you know sort of the scope and the size of the cohort that we're working with.
Hi everybody, I'm Angie Lenton. I'm the Development and Quality Manager for English at Northampton College. Just the same as Bianca, I've worked in FE for 20 years. I've been here for most of that time actually, and started teaching in foundation learning. So the students that are quite difficult to reach, and then I specialised in English after about 5 years of working here. I've taught functional skills. I also teach GCSE. I also teach A-level now as well, which is on, so A-level English language. And it's a job that I just love. My passion really is to help those students that people feel they can't be helped, and even the students themselves sometimes feel like they can't be helped. But those are my babies. Those are the ones that I really want to help. We do teach primarily GCSE. Here we have very small functional skills numbers. Our college is decentralised with its English and Maths, so that means that the English and Maths teachers aren't managed by me or my Maths equivalent. They're actually within the vocational areas. Everybody has different models, and I'm not convinced one is better than another, but that's basically what we do. So we had a cohort of 1,600 students going in for the GCSE exams this year.
Thank you very much. We're talking really significant numbers, as we know, in the recent cohort. So to start off with then, the first question, can you both tell us about your collaboration? How did it come about, and what actually are you doing? And if we start with Bianca. Thanks.
Yeah, so I think, so the background to the collaborative work that I'm doing at the moment sort of derived from a variety of sources. So the first one was sort of years of wrestling with contextualization within the English lessons, and sort of really trying to communicate to people who say we should contextualize all our work because that's going to be what makes everybody engaged in our lessons. It was really hard to say, well, actually, it doesn't work because that's not what English is for, because you're kind of pigeonholing a mechanics student to say they should not learn about the world around them or engage with sort of any other subjects other than cars. And so trying to kind of break down that almost stereotype that contextualization is the magic bullet is what really got me going to say, well, what will work? How can we sort of contextualize? And then obviously years of trying to embed English into a vocational department by saying, okay, this is, you know, a literacy skill, and it was always very superficial and I could never get under the skin of it. Talking to students and them saying that we don't read in vocational classes, we only read in English. And I was kind of like, no. When I spoke to vocational teachers, they were kind of looking at me quite quizzically, you know, well, we do read, but students don't associate reading with their vocational subjects. They only associate it with English. So I thought there's got to be more of a sort of a joined up approach to literacy to make sure that students realise that reading is applicable in all areas of their college life and outside life. Students really were struggling to engage in reading, and then this year predominantly I found that reading is a lot lower than it has been, and we've had a number of sort of unusual results for our reading papers at functional skills as well. So I started to really sort of query that. Why are students sort of almost losing their reading skills? And so there's all these sorts of things going on. And I started with a pilot at the beginning of the year. We were going to do a transition to T-level course where the learners had an additional hour of English and maths, and it was going to be taught by a vocational lecturer. And so I teamed up, and we were starting with the childcare group. So I teamed up with the childcare lecturer, and she would give me the topics every week, and I was writing her lessons for her based on the topic with an English focus and looking at how to embed the skills of GCSE within her subject. It wasn't supposed to be her teaching the subject, but it was teaching English through the subject, through the vocational teacher, and having her feedback. So that unfortunately was pulled after about 2 months because of the requirements for the sort of the guided learning hours changed, and so they decided to remove that hour of English and maths, which was quite a shame because we were just really getting going and the teacher was starting to feel very confident in her ability to deliver the lessons. So I would create the materials based on the subject that she gave me, and I would make it like an English GCSE sort of comprehension, retrieval, and inference. And so she was looking, and it really opened her eyes to GCSE as well. So once all of that kind of didn't work, because of the hours changing, I had a development plan meeting within my department with the principal, and I said, look, I really want to roll out literacy en masse to the whole college. And I'd also spoken to somebody in Larratrate, which I think is a Catholic school in the south of London, and they've got a whole school literacy project, but they also develop T-levels, which is something that we do here. And so kind of in a roundabout way, I ended up asking her how she created this whole school literacy policy, and she sent me some of her resources. And so I sort of broached the principal in the development plan meeting, and he said, right, okay, why don't you pilot it in a department? And I thought business studies learners were struggling level 1, level 2 to progress to level 3 with the skills required to get, you know, to really deal with a level 3 course. So I just started in the business studies area. So I can talk you through all the steps later if you want, of how my plans have gone, where I am and what I'm doing and the outcomes of it. But I think I just had a lot of sort of what I've been reading about fuzzy generalizations, which is something that a theorist called Bassi talks about in case studies. And I wanted to see whether I could evidence that these sort of fuzzy generalizations that I believe are true are actually true. That I think it's probably better that vocational lecturers learn how to create more opportunities for reading and writing within their lessons in a more structured approach, and they learn how to deliver the reading more so than an English teacher delivering their subject in an English lesson. So I sort of flipped the contextualization on its head, and that's how the project started with. And so I'm working with a group of 6 business studies level 1, level 2 teachers, and I'm kind of about a third through my 10-step plan.
I would love to see that 10-step plan.
Yeah.
That'd be really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really key, isn't it? I think, and I think as English teachers, we probably do fight a lot of barriers that are put in because it's an academic subject as opposed to a vocational subject, and you know it's seen in a much better light in schools than it is in FE. It's a tricky job in FE. But I'd really like some of the ideas that you came up with there, and how, you know, you're really specialising and honing in on certain subjects with your pilots. I tend to be an all or nothing kind of person, so I just kind of go in with both feet. We've kind of worked on collaboration within the college for a number of years. It started in COVID, which was a key time for us, and it keeps evolving, and some of the things are coming back, and I'll share those with you in a minute, but I've also got plans for the future as well, to kind of just step up on that collaboration, because you can't sit still on it. We've got things like Reading Influencer project, which I started over COVID, and it was all about getting vocational teachers to read our GCSE texts, or to record our GCSE texts, and then we can play them in the classroom. So their motor vehicle teacher is reading the text to motor vehicle students, just to kind of see if that helped with motivating. I think one of the challenges there really was to try and get some of the motor vehicle teachers to read. And I found it was really interesting, but lots of the teachers in the college, even though we stand up and we talk in front of groups of students every day, that they really struggled with the fact that they'd be recorded reading something. I did one as well, and it does take a few attempts, but you kind of get into it. And you know, that's when I noticed, I think we've got an awful large percentage of dyslexic teachers in FE, I think, compared to schools. But it really kind of brought that home to me. So we had that. We also have a Reading Influencer Week as well. So every year, well, we've done it for a couple of years. Every year we have a big campaign across the college. So every single teacher, vocational teacher, brings in their favourite book. Can be whatever they want. Could be a newspaper, doesn't matter. But they basically spend the first 5 minutes of each lesson with a new group, just talking about what they've read in there, and just having conversations and discussions. Again, it's like, you know, it's letting the hair and beauty students know that hair and beauty teachers also read. It's not just English teachers. So all that collaboration is quite nice. One year we got inspiration from the AOC English and Maths conference I went to, and I think it was Plumpton College, had this idea about development wheels, which are amazing. So I got the English and the maths teachers were collaborating with the vocational areas to come up with a list of elements that we teach in maths and English that are also in their own areas. So we had huge posters printed that actually showed those different areas, and it's something we want to develop a little bit more in every classroom, really. So we want those on the wall and being used rather than just a visual thing. So it's like, okay, I've covered this in this lesson, and again, like you, Bianca, it's more about literacy than GCSE. So that's another thing that we've done. Thinking more about this year and what we have planned and what we've collaborated on. we're doing a 1 hour induction maths and English session, but not maths and English, it's literacy and numeracy. So that will be with a maths teacher, an English teacher, and a vocational teacher in the room. So every single group that starts, if we've got enough staff, will have a kind of contextualized literacy and numeracy session. So it's not based around GCSE, it's based around their vocational area and how they will use maths and English in their vocational or in their jobs when they get to that stage. So that I'm going to be really interested to see how that goes. We've found that there's been a little bit of reluctance to kind of talk between the English and maths teachers and the vocational teachers. But I think it just takes a little bit, it takes a couple of years of going round in a circle to kind of, you know, make sure that we can get the communication set up. But we're working really well with some areas, and it's going to happen. So they will have to do it, and the vocational teacher can't nip off for coffee for an hour. They have to stay, which is really interesting. Next year as well, we're collaborating with vocational teachers on our entry 3 programme. So these are things like catering, motor vehicle, health and social care, performing arts and art. They have, you know, a percentage of students that we've been losing every year because their levels of literacy and numeracy are so low. All they want to do is they want to paint or they want to create something in multi-skills. So this year we have decided to sit down and create a whole new programme for those students where they will have 1 hour sessions a day for maths and for English. But 2 of those sessions will be taught alongside a vocational teacher. So it's true collaboration, true team teaching. And we're not looking at qualifications necessarily at the end of that. We're looking at building their confidence, letting them know that, you know, the vocational and English and maths teachers are friendly. We can put a project on together and work together. So that's another thing that I can't wait to see the results of that kind of collaboration. Another thing we're doing, really excited about this one. We're collaborating with the school because we're having a week of, they wanted to do a week of maths and English, and again, didn't want to word it that way. So we're having a week of the power of words and numbers. So we're collaborating with all sorts of different areas and coming up with different projects that they can do during that week, trying to make it really interactive, looking at getting in some, they're not poets, they're, what are they? I can't quite, but they kind of, they speak about their life experiences, spoken word artists, that's it. So we're getting some of those in as well to hope that the students will just kind of look at that. And it's all about self-reflection as well for them. And lots of the vocational areas are really keen on getting involved in that. And they will do little bits of work on that in their lessons as well, just to kind of join it up together. And we've got lots of other things coming up that I'd love to do. We've got an immersive space. I would love to collaborate with some other English colleges on that immersive space. I think there's probably only about 9 colleges in the country that have got one at the minute. And I'm also looking at setting up, and again, this is something I'd like to collaborate maybe with another college with, is doing some putting on some small research groups of mixed types of people within the college. So not even just teachers, teaching assistants, you know, estates workers, and partly based around raising literacy, but you know, that can be packaged in other things like sustainability projects and all that kind of thing, but just really bringing the whole college together. So those are some of our projects that we've got on the go or want to do.
Well, listening to both of you, I mean, it's really exciting, very dynamic, innovative practice and expertise that you're telling us about. And you know what you're really signalling loud and clear is the importance of a kind of holistic approach, breaking out of the English classroom, making connections and relationships with vocational areas, which is something I have done a lot of, like literally walking into brickwork, walking into motor vehicle as an English teacher, and breaking down, sort of demystifying our subject and making meaningful connections. And you just reminded me as well, one of the things that I did was it's just the little things which you've also pointed out, getting teachers to put their favourite books on their doors, like across the whole college. So they go into hair and beauty or health and social care, and then they strike up conversations, exactly as you're saying, Angie, that, everybody, well, not everyone, but lots of people read and enjoy all kinds of different books. And it's really inspiring and brilliant to hear all the different kind of things that you're doing that are involving all kinds of people. But what's underpinning it is the English expertise, the expertise of English teachers. So it brings me to the next question, which is, can you tell us a bit, you already have, but maybe go into a bit more detail about how you actually collaborate, how it works, and perhaps you've also hinted at this, the challenges and the pleasures of the mechanics of the collaboration. And maybe, actually, I'm going to go to Bianca first because Angie just finished talking, so let's hear Bianca go first on this one. Thank you.
Yeah, so just something that I was thinking about as well is some reading for pleasure as well, which is something that I really would like. So, bit similar, sort of bouncing off what Angie was saying. So I created these posters. I went online, found some Google Book links where you can read the book for free, and then created QR codes. And something that I'm going to sort of pilot in September with vocational areas is the reading for pleasure in which one? So there was one with hairdressing where I found this novel about a new trainee hairdresser who was making quite a few mistakes with people's hair, and sort of taking a little bit of the blurb from the book, few lines from the book, trying to sort of whet the appetite of the students and then read more here. So that's another way that we could collaborate going forward as well. I just need to make sure there are enough books and enough links. Unfortunately, our library doesn't have enough online books, but so just going back to the business studies thing, that I would say how I've kind of moved it forward. So I think I sort of met with the team and discussed what the vision was for literacy in their department, and so then I asked the lecturers to invite me into their classes. So I went and had a look at what they were doing in the class. It wasn't observations, it was less threatening than that. It was just me sitting in the class and they were passing me their materials, and I was sort of observing how the classes were delivered. And then after that, I sort of fed back to the manager, and I felt that there were some gaps in sort of understanding what literacy was, and I sort of discussed where I thought we could collaborate, i.e. sort of just doing some basic training in how to deliver reading, what are reading skills, how reading skills are developed. So, looking at skimming, scanning, reading for gist, retrieval questions, sort of engaging learners in texts and all of those sorts of things. And then what I did actually yesterday is I did a training session with the group on with a group of teachers on just very basic literacy skills. So I took some of the slides that one of the lecturers had used on goal setting in business, threw those into Microsoft Copilot, said, create me a text of 200 words using these features, using this information, and make it sort of business related, but not too sort of business dense, but sort of for a younger audience. And then it created this text. I had to read through it. It was really nice, and asked it to write some retrieval questions and then some inference questions. And it created this text for me very quickly, because obviously I'm not a subject expert, so I need to know that the subject stuff is correct. I can work on the literacy with them, but I don't know the subject area is correct. So then I taught the lecturers. It's quite, I don't know, they all wanted to go to the toilet. I taught the lecturers as if they were students. They'll put their hand up and went, "Miss, can I go to the toilet, please?" I was like, right, no. So we had that sort of fun. I had a bit of fun with them yesterday, and I taught them as if they were learners and how I would teach this particular aspect. Because what I found is that a lot of it was lecture style, and they were asking students to retain so much information in their heads about text. And there were, and then in the feedback to this, they were saying, "Oh yes, but our learners won't read. They won't read. We've asked them to read these texts," and there were a lot of barriers. And I said, "Okay, but did you discuss the title with the learners before they read the text? Was the text accessible? Was the language potentially too hard for them? Was anything framed for them to read for?" And I think what we take for granted, even as English teachers, is that our learners do not have the developed reading skills that we do, the innate skills that we do. And we have to sort of look at how we process a text ourselves. And a lot of it is about asking questions. And we generally ask ourselves questions when we look at a title innately to then read the text, to find out that information, or to find out whether we enjoy it or not, or we're summarizing bits of paragraphs, or we are just looking for we're scanning for certain types of information. And I think what it threw up to me is that we do, as teachers, and even in English meetings, I feel that a lot of the time we go into it saying, well, they won't do it. And I'm like, well, how could we break that barrier down in the way that we frame it? How can we then engage our learners better? How could we step away from the deficit and look at the funds? So I'm very much like, look at the glass as half full rather than the glass as half empty. So they were saying, "Oh no, I hadn't thought of that." And actually I asked them to read the assignment brief, and then I asked them some verbal questions, and I said, "But did you ask the questions before they read?" "No." "So what were they reading for?" "Well, they were reading the brief." That sort of thing, where we just take for granted that everybody's able to read, and as proficiently as we are, and as pretty literate adults who on the whole have got degrees, or have got further education, further training as well. So that to me was some of the challenges that were brought up. They tried to kind of throw all these challenges at me, and I said, well, if you try this way, it would probably break down that barrier. And I just gave them suggestions. And then my next step is to meet with them and look at how they can create texts as well. And the interesting thing that this session threw up yesterday was when I showed them the text, I said, this is a very small text. It was a text on A4, quite spaced out. And I said, this is what they would read at entry 3. So imagine what they're reading at GCSE. Do you feel that you're exposing your learners to texts at the same level as GCSE? And can you imagine the cognitive jarring that they get when they move from a lesson where there's very little reading to a lesson where there's a lot of reading? And so maybe we could smooth that, or we can put a bridge across that gap for our learners by maybe reading more in your lessons and having more opportunity to be exposed to good texts and develop those sort of innate reading skills that we take for granted, but on a step-by-step basis, rather than a kind of, here's a text, read. And so it was just kind of introducing them to engagement into text, pre-reading, sort of predicting from the title, all of those things that we take for granted, and doing it that way. So that was the pleasure for me, was that they engaged with me, and they were not resistant. They threw up a few barriers, and I kind of gave them some ideas. But for me, I think going forward, what I'm going to do is co-write a lesson with them. And then I'm going to ask them to teach it with me in the room present, to facilitate where they might struggle. And then have that conversation afterwards and say, well, how did you feel teaching your subject matter in a different way? And how did you sort of see how the students responded, get a bit of feedback from the students, and then keep moving that forward. So it's going to be a really slow project for me, and it's going to kind of take quite a long time to do, but I think it's the only way to sort of go bottom up, go right down to work at the grassroots levels with the teachers at the sort of creating materials and planning stages. So for me, that is my biggest pleasure, is to work with people creating materials to engage their learners further and develop their literacy skills further. So yeah. So over to you, Angie.
Can I just say, Bianca, that was such a brilliant kind of example of showing us the huge value of the English expertise and the techniques that you're using in relation to the whole vocational subjects. It's really inspiring. Thank you, Angie.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's, it's nice and it's not too time heavy. That's the thing I was going to talk about next, was the challenges. So time, everybody, we all struggle with the time. And, I think with collaboration, it's seen a lot as, an added extra. Oh, it's something else I have to do. So making it really viable and important and interesting for everybody is really important as well. And I can see one of our teachers is in here, Angie, and she's quite new with us. So, the whole kind of collaborating with performing arts and music and media, which is the school that Angie's in, it takes a while because you have to get to know people and you need that time to do it as well. So on both sides. I do try to push it quite a lot, and that is the challenge all the way. It is a constant challenge, and it's been my job for the last 4 years, is just to keep trying to get everybody involved in English and to collaborate. And no one's better than anybody else. We're all there for the student. So I think those are the challenges, but the pleasures. I've met so many people from across the college who have really embraced it. There's a science teacher called Rob. There's a music teacher called Lenton. There is a woodwork teacher called Simon. And we've all done so much work together with like recordings of texts. They've helped with the reading influencer side of things as well. So that's the real pleasure, is getting to know other people and passing on like our love of English as well.
Yes, that's great. And what you're both doing and embracing is that whole idea of community in the colleges, and that English is sort of an integral part of that community and community building, because clearly communication is at the heart of English, and English specialists are, really brilliant communicators. So why not exploit that college-wide, which is what you're both doing, and it's just really impressive. So the next question, the final question before we end, we've got another 10 minutes, is what could you not have done or thought without collaborating? So without the collaboration, what would you have missed? What wouldn't be happening?
I'll be 100% honest. Everything that we've kind of put together there, or we've said that we've worked on, it wouldn't have worked without that collaboration. So having reading influencer week wouldn't have worked if it was just English teachers. Doing the team teaching, it's not going to work if we're not collaborating properly. So yeah, I'm glad it takes place, and I'm glad that part of my role is to take the time to make sure that it does happen.
Yeah, I would definitely say that it takes a lot of resilience and tenacity in a really nice way. So obviously, like Angie was saying, it is very we're all short of time, but it almost I think it's really nice to have a focus and a relationship with other departments, and I've enjoyed going into other lessons as well, and to really see how the students are in the vocational side of things as well, and then it just builds those bridges between the vocational area and the English and maths, which is something that every college wants to do, but it can be very difficult. And I think there's a sort of a mystery around the English and maths team a lot of the time. There's kind of like, what is it that they actually do? It's all GCSE, but actually, having created materials for other departments, they're like, oh, that's what you do. Oh, it's actually quite straightforward. And having delivered some sessions in vocational areas of, look, these are your assignment briefs. Have you thought about approaching your assignment briefs in this way with these framed questions, and leading in and this inference on certain words and phrases within your assignment briefs? this could like open up a whole area, sort of a whole thing of understanding in a much deeper way, which would then bridge into the English classes that your students are taking. And I think, like Angie sort of said, we can't do much without the backing of the rest of the college, but it also takes that personal touch. Like, we have to go around and we have to meet with people, we have to be known to be credible English specialists or math specialists with a real desire to for the learners. And I think when everybody knows that our hearts are in the right place, they listen and they do take on board what we say. But I suppose you need that platform for your passion to come through, and that can be very difficult to find those moments. But I think it's really worth finding those moments across every member of staff in the college, irrespective of their sort of role and the hierarchy, because a lot of places are hierarchical. So I'm a head, so everyone has to listen to me. Well, it's not actually like that, because you still need staff buy-in, and you still have to work hard to show that your heart is there and it's in the right place as well. So I agree wholeheartedly with what Angie's saying about none of this would exist if we didn't have the number one, the passion and the drive and the resilience to keep going even when we see doors closing on us, not maliciously, but you know, when people are like, oh yeah, no, I've got to get through my vocational qualification, goodbye to you, sort of thing, I can't meet with you, you know, and you just have to keep saying, well, when can we meet, you know, and just keep going and you know, keep working at it, and not take it personally as well that people don't necessarily have the time to meet with you. It's not a personal thing, but now's a great time to start all these collaborative projects, because we're all sort of winding down for the year. And it's great to meet people and network with people within our own college, you know, at this particular time of year as well. So if anybody's wondering when to do it now. Make some meetings, appointments with other members of staff, and you know, and say, right, this is what I want to do, and but who can I approach? And most people do want to back English and maths, they just don't know how sometimes as well. So when you give them the recipe of how to do it, a lot of the time the other departments are quite happy to buy into it.
I think also, Bianca, and you both touched on this, it's the whole kind of demystifying English, and it is about breaking down those barriers. And you know, people talk about maths anxiety, but there's a real thing that we all know, which is English anxiety, and it's amongst staff as well. I mean, certainly, I've run sort of staff workshops on English, on things like punctuation and stuff, and people could come and they would need to. They could come anonymously. Obviously, I knew who they were, but you know, just to support people to kind of, because they had real anxiety, and people do have real anxiety. So it's not just maths. So this whole collaboration, you're opening up everything, aren't you, about our subject and the work that you're doing through collaboration.
Hopefully.
Well, it just adds, if anyone's got any questions, please do put them in the chat if people want to ask Bianca or Angie anything about their work. I certainly agree with them about the time of year now. If you know, what would you say to teachers? Because obviously you're both sort of heads, you've got positions of influence. What would you say to any teacher any English teacher right now? How could they go about starting collaborative working?
Well, I've got a couple of teachers that are going to go kind of follow on from that reading influences thing that I started a while ago, and they're going to talk to the teachers in their own areas to try and get them to do some recordings. So I think that'll be a start for something as well. And I think it's a lot to do with talking with the curriculum manager as well as the vocational area, and getting them to kind of move and push things.
Yeah, I think we can do things at all levels, but I think it's having something concrete and small and contained that you want somebody to participate in. So, for example, like the recordings, I'd just like you to record this really short, and start with something small and manageable and short, to then build up, and you know, you're also building up the confidence of a vocational lecturer. Like Angie was saying, you know, not everybody is really confident in reading out loud, that kind of thing. So anything that is very sort of finite and structured will always work. And I think you could go to, I mean, I talked to some people in teacher training as well to look at working with the trainees. There could be some sort of angle in working on the delivery of it, or even talking about your experience of English and maths at a team meeting as well. So obviously that goes with the head. So if you're a teacher and if you've got plans, have some sort of project and structured thing that you would like to do. Start small and then build up on it, but approach your head or your line manager to facilitate the conversations and the introductions as well, because they might not know who you are and they might not respond to your email, and not because they don't want to. It's just that, you know, we're all guilty of it. We see a new name in an inbox and we're like, who's that? And we just ignore it sometimes, don't we? So you know, you need those introductions and those sort of ways into the conversation. But you know, again, tenacity is really important.
Okay, thank you very much. And just to say that obviously this is being recorded, so people who aren't here who may be watching it later, certainly you could contact Angie or Bianca. I'm sure they'd be very pleased to hear from you. I know that you're both on LinkedIn. You could also contact via the English Association and we could put you in contact, because part of the work that the English Association is doing is providing a platform and being like a connecting agency of colleges across, you know, everywhere. And so it's really brilliant of both of you. Thank you very, very much for giving up your valuable time, because we know how precious it is. And it's been really interesting and very inspirational hearing about the work that you're doing at the moment. And just to conclude, for everybody else, the English Association has a series of events that we run throughout the year, and you can find out about them on our website as part of our Thinking Forwards series, but also our Gathering Voices, our FE gatherings that we do every few weeks. So we advertise these on LinkedIn, on Blue Sky in particular, but you can always just contact us if you've got ideas that you would like to share. We're always interested and keen to hear from teachers, English teachers anywhere, to share their work. So thank you very much to Bianca and to Angie. I don't think we have any further comments, just some thanks in the chat, which is very nice, informative and clear session. Thank you very much. So just to finish off, Angie and Bianca, could you just give one sentence about why you think collaboration is so important, starting with Angie?
The students need it. We don't work in silos, do we? We don't just do English, we don't just do whatever. We do lots of different things together as adults, and that's why it's important. Thank you. Bianca?
Oh, I don't think I can top that, so I'm going to let Angie. That was brilliant, Angie. We don't work in silos. There you go. What she said.
Okay, what she said. Brilliant. Okay, everybody, enjoy the sunshine for the rest of the evening. I hope it's sunny where you are. Have a great summer. And again, thank you. Huge gratitude to Angie and Bianca for giving up your time and sharing your brilliant work. And good luck with the coming year. Look forward to hearing more about it.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Summer.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.